Stress isn't the enemy, it's your body's survival alarm system. It's always feedback, and I think that's the best way to reframe it. If you think of stress as an indicator of failure, that is not going to be productive at all, right? Your physiology is 100% affecting your thoughts, your experience, how you operate in the world. Get some sun on my skin, close the eyes, do some breathing. Yeah, man, I'm alive. Life is good. Yo, here we go. Showtime. Gonna be a lot of reading today. Not a ton. A lot off the cuff. That's what's gonna be going on. Episode 51. Stress signals what your body is telling you. It's another AI special. If you remember, like 6 episodes ago, I was a little bit of a drought, a little bit of a writer's block, and I went to the Google AI. No, it wasn't Google AI. It was just ChatGPT, and asked for some help. It gave me 10 topics. We pulled out 3, and chat. So we're going to be talking about stress today. We got a hook for you. It's no good that I need to read this. Do you ever feel your jaw tightening, your stomach turning, or your heart racing without even realizing you're stressed? Do you ever get the chills, randomly break out in a sweat, or have a hard time focusing? These are your body's stress signals, and they're worth paying attention to. The goal of this episode is to help you decode physical and emotional signs of stress and give you simple tools to respond instead of react. And that's going to be important because stress is probably the most important thing you need to pay attention to. We all enjoy a nice, crisp liquid death. That's for sure. We all experience stress. It's just part of what it is, and it's part of your physiology. And too much is a problem, and too little is a problem. So getting the right amount of stress, of stimulation, is going to be key to creating adaptation, to building strength, conditioning, mobility, whatever it is. And then to be able to dial that back and to recover from those things, to be able to go to work and have a productive day at work. That is stress accumulating, right? And so we want to be able to do these things, but if we do them too much for too long, we're going to hit a wall. It's going to present problems, and we're just not going to be as effective as we could be. So understanding that your physiology is always oscillating between a higher stress state and lower stress states is really important to understand how your body works and to be able to take care of it long term, to be able to recognize the signals of, hey, you know what, maybe a little bit too much stress. My total stress load right now of all the things I have going on in my life is just a little bit much. I need to dial it back and find a little bit more recovery, a little bit more downtime to let my physiology recover and let it build itself back up to where my energy levels come back up, to where my brain is functioning well, and I can operate from a more calm and confident state instead of always being reactive. And, if you're popping off for no reason, no reason, it seems like reasons to you, but you're getting angry a lot, or you're getting stressed out a lot, or you're feeling overwhelmed often, your physiology is telling you something. That's not you. That's the thing we have to understand. It's not necessarily you. It's that your physiology is 100% affecting your thoughts, your experience, how you operate in the world. And so the more you can get tuned into it and understand when it needs a break or when it needs a little bit more, when it needs to be stimulated, because some people are in that situation, is say it's super critical. It's super critical. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to use the ChatGPT outline here. I'll read and then I'll make my own comments. Yeah, these have gone really well. I've enjoyed them. They've kind of lowered my stress levels. I put a lot on my plate. more than I probably should have. So these have been really helpful to help me lower my stress response and just be able to be in a better place for people. Because I mean, I'm in a people business. I need to be in a good mood. I need to have energy. I need to be able to put out, because I'm here to help people. And so I got to make sure I'm watching what I'm doing. I'm preaching and doing what I'm preaching here. Outline of topics today. We got updates. We got the science of stress. So we're going to get into some quick updates. We're going to get into the science of stress. We're going to go over common body stress signals, practical tools to decode and reset. We'll talk about reframing stress. And then we'll have, per usual, some final thoughts. All right, let's get into these updates. Well, that was prolonged. Updates. Here we go. Football updates. Well, the Lions just won last night, Monday Night Football. You'll be hearing this a week later, but it was glorious. A glorious win over the Ravens. They played fantastic. Could have been a wider margin there. They let one in on that in the last minute, which probably could have been stopped. There was 3 guys tackling a guy, and he somehow got away. You could tell they kind of they had it. They knew they had it, and they got the win. It was awesome. So great to see the Lions get a real milestone win like that. Michigan did well. They played well. If you follow football, you care. If you don't, you don't. Tigers only 1 game up their division, and that's not good. They're so that the L10, what's the record like over the past 10 games is 1-10, not good. And the guys behind them are 1-9, and the guys behind them are 9-1. I don't even know who it is because I was irritated to look at that. We got a bunch of rain this week. Subscribers 62. YouTube goes from 142 to 144. A slow climb. I really want to change what I'm doing. I got to get more time so I can do these 5 or 7 minute videos that just hammer a point home in a video, because I think those things would really help people and go, viral. I think those would be shared. What I'm doing now is just taking clips from, as I'm sure I take clips from the episode here and put them out. And they're great. They'll get some views, they would get up to 1,100, 1,600, and so 10 likes, 5 likes, no likes, 16 likes. And every once in a while, it'll pop off a subscriber. But at this rate, I'm going to be 78 before we hit 500 on the YouTube there. Spotify 41, Apple 24, no change. Reminder, please submit your questions to Dennis at dennisfenrich.com. All right, here we go. Section 1. Let's get into this. Section 1. The science of stress. Define stress in simple terms. Stress isn't the enemy. It's your body's survival alarm system. That's right. We don't want to, again, like I was kind of just talking about, we don't want to think about stress as bad. Stress is not bad. You need stress to get adaptation. You need signal stress to build fitness, to get better at something, right? Even if you start a new job, it's stressful. You're taking in the information. Your body's going to get adapted to it. Your brain's going to adapt to that. So we need stress. We're built on a biological platform. We evolved off of animals, right? We've talked about consciousness before, consciousness as an evolutionary adaptation. And now here we are. And we think that what we think about is everything, right? We have a tendency to think that consciousness is everything, I know everything that's going on, all right? And what I think about is what I do and all this other stuff, but you don't got nothing to do with those cells in your body. I mean, they're going to regenerate and do their thing. The hair is still going to grow. You're going to chew food and swallow it. Yeah, I decided to do that. I was conscious of that. Yeah, but you weren't conscious of anything after that at all, right? You weren't like, all right, now it's time to release it out. My stomach acid has done its work now. Let me release that. Okay, yeah, there it goes. Good. There it sounds. It's halfway through my intestines right now. Let me tell those bacteria down there to start doing their thing. My microbiome. No, none of that's happening. Right? There's way more going on that you're not conscious of. Why? Because we evolved on a biological organism, and that thing responds to the environment, right? If you're a mouse and there's a snake, whoa, stress response. Now the mouse doesn't go, snake. The physiology of the mouse just responds. And we're on top of that. It's the elephant in the rider analogy. Okay. And so we have to manage our stress and make sure that we're not getting ourselves too stressed out, right? We have to pull back the reins and identify when we need to get into more recovery. The role of the nervous system: sympathetic, fight or flight, versus parasympathetic, rest and digest. And we're going to break that down a little bit because it's a little bit confusing if you ask me. It's called two different systems, right? The key difference is between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems, right? So sympathetic system, parasympathetic system. So I started thinking, is it two different nervous systems that are physically different, right? Are they running parallel with each other? And the answer was no. They're running through the same nerves, but, it's got an effect here. And this is I heard it explained this way, which is really, really good, right? If I have my hand up and I move my hand across the screen, or move it across in front of my face very slowly, I can do that somewhat efficiently. Efficiently meaning it's not stopping and going. I can control it. But if I take my other hand and I push my right hand into my left hand and now I move it, I have way more precision over how I can position that in space as opposed to by itself. Okay. And so that's what's kind of going on with your nervous system, right? It's not a, hey, I'm stressed, and then it turns off. It's a signal back down, right? It's not an on and off. It's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic pushing against each other to, I guess, more finely tune itself, but it also just might be how it has to be in this universe or how things evolve. So we're going to dive into that parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system a little bit more, give you some details to help you better understand the differences between the two forces working within your physiology, within those cells, boy. All right, so here we go. A little bit of reading here. Sympathetic nervous system. So basically, I got two columns. Bam. I don't know if you can see this on your screens. Probably if you got a screen, you can. Bam. Sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. Parasympathetic nervous system, rest or digest. So the sympathetic was, you're supposed to have sympathy for people. It's kind of confusing. The sympathetic is the one that amps up. It's the fight or flight. And the parasympathetic is the one that amps down, where you get into that rest or digest. So the sympathetic prepares the body for action, perceived danger, or stressful situations. Parasympathetic relaxes the body after stress and manages, in quotations here, housekeeping functions during periods of rest. Response type. Sympathetic speeds up and energizes the body, uses energy, and diverts blood to large muscles. Parasympathetic calms the body down, conserves and restores energy. Effects on the body. Sympathetic, increased heart rate, blood pressure, breathing rate, and pupil size. Because you got to take in more light to see what the heck's going on out there if it's getting crazy. Decreases digestion and glandular. I don't know why I said that 3 times. I feel like I needed to say it different. Secretions. Parasympathetic decreases heart rate, blood pressure, breathing rate, and pupil size. So the exact opposite. Increases digestion and salivary gland activity. Get them salivary glands fired up, boy. It's time to eat. It's time to eat something. Who doesn't love eating? Man, eating's good. Just make sure you're taking in the right amounts. You know what I'm saying? Not too much, not too little. Chemical messengers. Sympathetic. Primarily uses the neurotransmitters norepinephrine and epinephrine, adrenaline, to communicate. Parasympathetic primarily uses the neurotransmitter acetylcholine to communicate. So again, it's just painting that picture that it's not, hey, I'm stressed and now my stress system is on and then it's going to turn back off. It's that it gets turned on and then there needs to be a signal, something pushing it back down, and that's the parasympathetic system. And lastly, duration of effect. Sympathetic produces a body-wide rapid response for immediate action. Parasympathetic tends to have more localized and discrete effects. I remember reading that one, and I didn't quite tends to have more localized and discrete effects. Don't quite follow that. But so that's what's going on, right? That's the science behind it. You're on a biological organism. We evolved through that. And then there you have this parasympathetic, is both falling under the autonomic nervous system, but the two sides of that. And that those two sides isn't on and off. It's both of them need to be turned. Both will turn on depending on what's going on. You get stressed out, sympathetic gets turned on. And then when you're not stressed out anymore, then the parasympathetic gets turned on and activated. Activate that thing more often and you're going to live a happier life, okay? Unless you're stressing out. Well, no. If you are stressing out. Anyways, it's a balance. You know what I mean? Why ignoring stress signals matter. Chronic stress leads to inflammation, poor recovery, burnout, and even disease. And yeah, right? So, if you're constantly under stress for weeks and months and years, it's been clearly shown your inflammatory levels are going to be higher. Your brain function is going to be less. Even parts of your brain can shrink. You get, stress, cortisol. Cortisol breaks down tissues to make energy available, right? So you're just fighting this thing. You have to be able to get out of that stress state. All right. What do we got on here now? No, the sympathetic, I think this is stuff we already covered. The sympathetic, fight or flight, and parasympathetic rest and digest systems are not too complete. Oh, this is the question that I asked. So I'll just read you what Google, this was a Google question. And that's when I asked them. I said, is it two separate physical systems? Do I have a nervous system for parasympathetic and the other one for sympathetic? And the answer was no. They're the same system. They just have different. It's like a push-pull thing. All right, so no, the sympathetic fight or flight and the parasympathetic rest and digest systems are two completely different nervous systems. Instead, they are the two opposing divisions of the same larger system. I already covered that, autonomic. The ANS, autonomic nervous system, controls many of the body's involuntary or automatic, that's where autonomic comes from, internal functions such as heart rate, digestion, blood pressure, and breathing. I think we picked up on all this. These two divisions don't operate on a simple blah, blah, blah. I explained all that. Fantastic. Okay. So we're leaving the science and moving on to common body stress signals. Physical signals, okay? Jaw clenching, headaches, and muscle tension, right? And I'll see this a lot in people where, they've got knots and knots and knots in their shoulders because they operate on high stress, right? And here's the thing, right? Operating at high stress, you can get a lot of work done. You can be really productive when you're mad, right? I personally, we did a podcast on it. Which emotions do you use to drive your behavior, right? So I can go out and do work. Man, when I'm mad, I can get some work done. You know what I mean? I'm focused, but it is demanding, right? It is dumping cortisol in there to get me all fired up, and then I'm just going and put in that direction. And is that bad? I don't know if it's bad if I'm producing something good, but it might not be ideal. Maybe if I worked from, I don't know how to say this, a position of love, right? Like I just did what I did out of love. I loved what I was doing. Then I wouldn't have to be angry when I was doing it. And I'd probably be more effective, I bet, especially since I'm in a people business. I think people want to be loved more than they want to be mad at. You have somebody angry at them. But physical symptoms, jaw clenching, headaches, and muscle tension, right? So you got these guys that got this tension in their muscles, man. And whatever's going on psychologically, it's going to be going on physically. They're it's just the way it is. It's one unit. It's one unit. And got to learn how to run that unit. Digestive issues, butterflies, nausea, bloating, right? So if you try and pay attention to this. I've noticed this about myself. I'll eat a meal, I'll be perfectly fine, no big deal. And then something really stressful will happen because I have a tendency, and I'm getting better at it, to let things really just get me fired up. And then all of a sudden, immediately after that stress response, now all of a sudden my digestion doesn't feel very good. And I got some stuff going on down there. I'm like, well, that ain't no coincidence, right? So, it is just well known. If you're marathon runners, if sometimes, not all of them, depends on how conditioned you are, but if you're really pushing into it, you can really just you can have a bowel problem. You can have a bowel movement right while you're running because these stress levels are so high, right? You ever been scared shitless? I almost said it, right? That's a figure of speech because those things happen, right? You can be so scared that and that's a normal stress response. So if you're getting low-level chronic stress, well, then it makes sense that you'd have low-level chronic intestinal issues, right? Digestive issues, right? Another physical signal, sleep problems, restless nights, waking up tired. And I don't think anybody, everybody pretty much understands that one, right? If you're not sleeping good, you're too stressed out. It's like straight up, right? Your physiology, in order to go to sleep, it has to get into rest or digest, right? You have to come down and get your physiology to slow down. And so if you're always a shallow sleeper, you got to learn how to chill out. You got to start putting the things in your life that are going to allow you to relax and feel okay with what's going on, because that's really what it comes down to. All right. Going on with section 2 here, common body stress signals, emotional mental signals, short temper, anxiety, racing thoughts. If you got a big picture perspective and you've got a healthy view on life, what does that mean? Well, it means that you see things kind of clearly. And when you see things clearly, well, guess what? That lowers your anxiety because you're not wondering what's going to happen, and it increases your motivation. You're going to feel good, right? You're going to go do things, right? So if you're anxious, you get anxiety, and your thoughts are always racing, it's because there's too much unknown in your life. You don't have good clarity, right? So what do? You need to take some time. You sit and think now, what's really going on? What do I really want to do? Who do I want to be? And get the big picture. Get a big picture for your life. It's incredibly helpful to know and understand that life's not super complicated. Most people are going to be born, or they wouldn't be here. They're born, they grow up, they have a family, have some kids, they retire, and then they go away. You leave the planet. Ain't nobody ever done anything different other than, hey, I didn't have kids or something in between. But everybody's here, and then they're not. And the sooner you can come to peace with that, and you say, you know what is it I want to do while I'm here? Yeah, you know what? That family thing seems like a pretty good route. Hey, getting a good steady job and having money in the bank and not having to stress out about finances, that's a good thing. Plenty of people have had really great lives doing that process right there, living that way. And I'm going to roll like that too. Why not? I don't have to be super unique. I think the problem with these kids these days, like everybody thinks they're going to be a superstar. They're all going to be a social media influencer. And it's just like, poo-poo having a family and raising kids. How dumb is that? I could be, flying around in jets and having champagne at fancy bars and having crazy meals and great. Which that was your life. You just served yourself the whole time and just did things that made you feel good. You didn't contribute in any way. You didn't raise kids that went on and had a good career and contributed to society in a positive way and helped their community, Incredibly short-sighted. That was a rant. Emotional, mental signals, brain fog, lack of focus. Tell you, man, when I get stressed out, that's one of the things I notice the most. Like, I just can't focus and get work done because my work a lot of it is I'm trying to create things inside a business, SOPs and how to coach people and how to run a class properly. And it's a lot of thinking and trying to be creative and figure out and understand what's going on. And man, when I'm getting my butt kicked, I have a very hard time with that. Or creating a podcast or whatever, right? Like, stuff is hard. If your brain ain't working great, that's no fun. And then you got behavioral signals. You got cravings for sugar, alcohol. Man, here's what I think is going on with that, right? If you're always stressed out, that is not comfortable. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to get yourself some comfort, right? You're like, hey, if I eat something, that feels good. I get some enjoyment, right? And this comes from, everybody knows and has heard of the rat study, right? So they put rats, they put them in a cage, and they had a water bottle, and they had a water bottle with cocaine, and the rats would just tap, 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 tap the cocaine until they were dead, right? Like, it was bad. So everybody said, oh, cocaine is physically addicting. right? It's a chemical, it's causing a chemical reaction in your brain, and you're physically addicted to it. Look at that. It's crazy. Bad news. Except somebody said, well, rats don't really live by themselves in a cage in a lab with humans walking around. That's not exactly their normal environment. What if we created a rat environment with 30 other rats out in where they would normally live and doing the normal rat things, because rats are mammals and they're social creatures. And what if we then gave them the option to smash on cocaine or drink water, and only 15% of the rats did it at that point? Now, why? Because if you're in a crap environment and you're stressed out, getting some pleasure, some relief from that is going to be very good, right? That's going to feel good. If you're not in a crap environment and life is pretty good, well, you don't need to take in these chemicals or do these things to make you feel good. You already feel good. You already feel good. Same thing happened with Vietnam vets. Over in Vietnam, I think the heroin use was like 80% of vets were using drugs or heroin in general. And when they came back, only 20% kept doing those things because you think war is a stressful environment? Yeah. You think you would have wanted a break mentally from that somehow? And the only way to get it was to drug yourself? Yeah, you'd probably be doing that too. So, cravings and sugar, alcohol. If you're super stressed out, it's no surprise you're going to go have some drinks and numb that, or eat a bunch of sugar so you can get some good feeling. Skipping workouts. This was interesting behavioral signal. Skipping workouts or overtraining. So you got the two opposing sides that, hey, I'm stressed, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, right? My body's been running hard from all this stress, and I'm not going to work out today. I don't have the energy, right? I'm just, chronic fatigue here. Got it. Or the opposing, hey, I'm stressed, I'm wired, I have to go work out because I'm just so amped up all the time, right? Right. So you could see how you could get both sides, and based on that, the individual would kind of determine their reaction to their physiology carrying a bunch of stress hormones around all the time and being on high alert. Skipping workouts or overtraining. So that procrastination or hyperproductivity, and those are just the same thing, right? Skipping workouts, procrastinating, you're preferring to conserve energy and sit because you're fatigued, or you're just can't stop and you're just always go, 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 go because your body's trying to do something with that, the stress that's in it. That's how I interpret that. Okay. Moving on from section 2, going on to section 3, practical tools to decode and reset. Awareness first. Journaling quick notes on energy, hunger, mood, and sleep. Okay. So, hey, you know what? Every night, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'm just going to sit down, do a review. How did my day go? What was my mood like? What was my energy like? And just a quick reference. Don't overanalyze. Just sketch down roughly, write down roughly, how it was, right? That's going to bring some awareness. And you're like, oh, you see a pattern, right? I remember one time I was in a relationship and I noticed we were fighting a lot. I didn't know how much. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write down every night we get in a fight. And it was Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. And I stopped recording because I knew, it's every night. Wow, look at that. Look at that. So I wasn't aware of that until I did that activity. So that's a good way to start to bring some awareness of journaling, pausing to ask, what is my body telling me right now? Now, that's a little more nuanced. I think you have to kind of feel your physiology, right? Do I feel tense? Do I feel stressed out? I know something that happens for me is that when I've been working really, really hard and running the brain really, really hard and working out and thinking a lot, and I'm overstressed, I'll break out into hot sweats. I'll be sipping some coffee in the morning and I'll get an email that's not great. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, hot sweat. I gotta, I'm over, I gotta unzip my zippy here. And, when that happens, I know, all right, you're burning the candle at both ends. You gotta chill out for a little bit. And I used to be really good at it, but lately, this year in 2025, I have not been good at that. And I don't know why. Typically I'd go, you know what? Copy that, and I would just shut it down and do the absolute minimums for like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just minimums. If I had to go coach some class. I'd go coach classes, but then I wasn't doing anything else. And that was good enough. That would work. That would get me back on track. All right, I'm back. Let's get back to work. But I don't know what happened in 2025, man. I'm not good at that anymore. And I got to get back on that. Just recognizing those signs. All right. But listening to your body, it is telling you, right? If you are clenching your jaw, if you already have a lot of headaches, you have racing thoughts, you need to find a way to chill out. And, it could be because your life isn't organized enough. You got to watch for that. And so there might be some things that you're putting off that you need to take care of, and that'll relieve some load. I remember one time at the gym, way back in the gym, the old gym, there was this corner that had the GHD in it, and it just wasn't getting clean back there. The rest of the floor was clean, but there was this corner, and it was just dusty, and I'd see it all the time. I'd see it. And eventually, after a while, I one day went and cleaned it, and then I never forget this because I'm telling this story right now. And then I would go, and then when I was over there and I saw it and it was clean, I felt good. I'm like, wow, look at that. Every time I saw it before, I got a little negative little hit, and I just kept ignoring it. But now that I took care of that, now it's off my plate, and now I feel good. I feel better when I look at it now. And there's hundreds of things like that in our lives, right? These little things that are on a list or should be on a list that just don't get done. And if you got that and you're incurring a lot of stress, a lot of psychological stress, hey, it'd be great. Just take a week, man. I'm going to knock this stuff out and get this off my plate. I guarantee you got a little bit of a weight lifted off your shoulders when you do that. I guarantee it. Because if we're not doing the things we know we should be doing, it wears on us. It's a weight you're carrying around. Get organized and take care of the little things. Immediate resets, 2 minutes of deep breathing or box breathing. So, breathing is general. We've talked about this a lot, right? So you want to exhale longer than you inhale. That's going to activate parasympathetic response. That's going to downregulate. And so take 2 minutes, and, if it's 2 minutes with your brain running, though, doesn't count. You got to get a good solid 2 minutes of just everything's all right. What's happening right now? Absolutely nothing. That's what's happening right now. There ain't no bear in here. There ain't no lion. Place isn't on fire. Physically, there's absolutely no threat to me. Yeah, I got some stuff to deal with. You know what? But right now, everything's all good. Take 2 minutes to do that. Gentle movement, stretch to release muscle tension. This is probably one of my favorites. When I'm stressed, I like to get up and just I don't do static stretching. I got this thing that I kind of made up that I work myself through. I go down into a squat, then I push my hips up, then I do like a Jefferson curl, and then I'll move my neck back and forth. I like to pull on my hair a little bit. This sensory feedback of your physiology gets you connected to your body and out of your head. And so if you can move your body in a way that's connecting, not disconnecting, which is important because you can move your body in a way that's disconnecting, right? And sometimes I enjoy that too, right? If I'm going to go and I'm going to do a really hard conditioning piece, I'm going to do burpees and bike, and I'm going to lay it out there for 12 minutes. That's disconnecting, right? I'm getting in my head. I'm pushing my physiology because, as your stress levels go up, you get less sensory feedback from your body, right? Because if I was getting chased by a bear and, it clawed my arm, well, I don't really need that pain information, right? I'm going to be numb to that. My body's gone, right? It's trying to get out of there. Although if I'm getting chased by a bear, I'm dead. But you get what I'm saying, right? How many times, especially if you're playing a sport, hey, I used to play some football, and you'd get a ding and you wouldn't even know it till the game was over because oh yeah, what is that? Because that information at a high stress state isn't necessary, right? And so if you are stressed, you can go off, start moving gently, feel the muscles stretching, get reconnected, and that'll help zero you back in a little bit, all right? Step outside. Yeah, get outside, man. Light, air, and a change of environment, right? A lot of my stress comes at my desk, and if I can just get outside, especially if the sun's out, pop the shirt, get some sun on my skin, close the eyes, do some breathing. Yeah, man, I'm alive. Life is good, okay? Long-term practices, sleep routines, nutrition that balances blood sugar, and regular exercise. That seems pretty specific. The best way to balance your blood sugar is to exercise. Having a good sleep routine, having a good daily routine of being more alert and active in the morning. And then, whatever the time is for you, whatever you can do. Hey, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Hey, I'm not alert and active at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock. I'm going to start winding it down and I'm coming for that long landing. So when I get to the bed, my body's already down regulated and I'm ready to get into a deeper level of sleep. And that's going to have just covered last week, talked about how important REM sleep is for your psychological well-being, having those emotional dreams, sorting things out, nutrition, obviously, regular exercise, more long-term practices, mind-body habits like meditation, yoga, or walking without a phone. Leave your phone somewhere. That is awesome. Don't look at your phone for 5 days. What are you talking about? I'm telling you, if you don't look at your phone for 5 days, you will not believe how less active your brain is by that 5th day. It is unreal, the change that creates. Picking up a breathing practice. I like to call it intentional breathing. It doesn't need to be 20 minutes. It doesn't need to be an hour. You don't need to go out for a 10-day retreat, okay? 2 minutes, 5 minutes, just every day, just a little bit, and you'll be able to build on that, and that becomes a tool that I use if I am having a hard time sleeping. If I am stressed out a little bit, all right, let me just focus on this breathing. I'm not perfect at it, but it's become a tool that I can use to help me out in higher stress states. Building micro recovery into the day, 5-minute breaks, post-meal walks, things like that. Yeah, if hey, every day at 1 o'clock, I go on that 30-minute walk. I love that 30-minute walk. You're getting good positive thoughts in. You're getting good experience for your physiology. You know what's coming, and it becomes this kind of anchor to a lower psychological and physiological state that you just look forward to, and it becomes part of who you are, so you can build stuff in there like that. Maybe it's in the evening with the family. Maybe you don't have family, it's with your dog or your cat or something, but having that regular down-regulated connection starts to anchor you in a better physiological, psychological state. All right, leaving section 3 here, going on to section 4, reframing stress. Stress is a messenger. Okay, what's this reframing thing? Here's a good way to think about reframing, You can picture the, let me get a little drink here. Little crickets. Yeah, crickets. Feeling good, baby. All right. Think about, everybody's seen that black and white picture of the vase. It's white on the outside and it's black in the middle and it looks like a vase. But if you change something in your brain, who the heck knows what you're doing, you can all of a sudden see two ladies facing each other, right? So it's just a black and white picture. You got simple lines and it's a vase, or it's two faces, two ladies facing each other. And then you can oscillate it back and forth. Oh, I see the vase. Oh, I see the face is. Okay? You can do that, right? Whatever you're doing in your brain, I don't know, but you can do it. Well, you could do the same thing, a little bit more challenging, but still the same concept of reframing and saying, hey, because you could go, oh, stress. Oh, no, I'm stressed out. Oh, I don't like this. Or you go, oh, stress. Oh, that's an indicator that I need to chill out. Right? So instead of it being this thing that winds you up, it becomes this thing that you framed into, oh, yeah, I don't need to be stressed. There's absolutely nothing going on right now. Thank you, physiology, for telling me that I'm getting a little bit wound up. I'm going to chill out for a minute, okay? I'm going to chill out. So reframing that. That's solid. That's good, okay? Evolutionary purpose. Stress was meant to keep us alive. Also, we get another example of reframing. Stress was meant to keep us alive, not keep us stuck, right? So, hey, again, seeing stress as a good thing, it's part of evolution. It's part of our physiology. It's built into evolution to keep us alive. And just being able to recognize that, hey, it's there. I'm glad I have it. I don't need to be dealing with it. I don't need this stress right now. I don't need to respond in this way. And lastly, encourage listeners. I'm going to encourage you to see stress signals as feedback from our body rather than failures. Oh, see, I wouldn't even think about it like that. Yeah, I mean, it's always feedback, and I think that's the best way to reframe it. If you think of stress as an indicator of failure, that is not going to be productive at all, right? It's just going to pile it on. So don't do that, okay? So there's some good ways to reframe stress. I think listen to this podcast hopefully is reframing stress for you. And we got some in closing here. Let's recap. The body, remember, this is the AI, okay? The body whispers before it shouts. You make me want to shout. Listen early. Get good. Pick up on those tremors before the volcano. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all don't know until the volcano's here, and then you still don't know. Because I'll tell you, getting angry feels good, doesn't it? Like, it's a powerful emotion and it feels good. But I can promise you, losing your is not a productive behavior strategy. It is not a good idea to lose your I don't even want to say it. Do I got a beep? I want a beep on here. I ain't screwing around with these buttons. That's what got me. That's how I missed an episode. Okay, so yes, getting angry feels good. Anyways, but it's not your best behavior strategy. That's for darn sure. Also, getting angry is a weakness, ultimately. You're losing control. Now, there would be a time to be angry, right? If somebody's trying to mug you, I would highly suggest you don't become fearful, but you get angry and you go, who in the world do you think you are? So anger has a place, but it's just not in the office or at home, okay? Body whispers before it shouts, listen early. Share one personal story. I think I've shared a ton of personal stories. All right, so we already did that a bunch. We're not going to do that again. And call to action. I'm going to encourage you, listener, to track one stress signal for the next week and experiment with one reset strategy. There it is. There's a practical approach. I'm going to pay attention to one stress signal, whether it's my tight shoulders, it's my creaky neck for my tight shoulders. It's, have I been clenching my jaw? Do I have a headache? Anything. One of those things that stands out for you. It is, what does it say? Pay attention to it for a week. Track one stress signal for the next week and experiment with one. And then try and find a way to try and resolve or reset that and get good at that. All right, here we go, guys. Final thoughts. And these are the Google AI. This isn't the Google AI does. This is the ChatGPT final thoughts. Again, I said, hey, Chat, go to my podcast and write me up some final thoughts that you would think would be in my words. This one was not as good as the others. I didn't feel like this was me. Here we go. Stressing isn't always a bad thing. It's your body's way of letting you know what's going on inside and around you. The challenge is that most of us are moving so fast, we don't stop to listen until the signals get loud. Fatigue, headaches, irritability, even illness. But if we can tune in earlier, we can respond with more care and less crisis. So here's the takeaway. Pay attention. Notice the little whisperers. I would never say that. That is lame. Tight shoulders. Shallow breathing. Shallow breathing. That is a big one. They found that many people checking email are barely breathing and nobody knows why. That afternoon crash. Instead of pushing past them, ask, what is my body trying to tell me? The more curious you get, the more fluent you become in your own signals. And that awareness is the first step toward working with your body instead of against it. All right, those are the final words, AI style. Next episode, guys. That is not the next episode. The next episode, it is. The next episode is recovery strategies. There's a fantastic chapter in a book that covers different recovery strategies. I'm going to pull those out, maybe pull some of my own, and we'll talk about how to get recovered, more specifically to exercise, but we might try and venture off into other areas as well. To be determined. Help us grow. Do you know someone this could help? Do you know anybody stressed out that needs to stop doing that? Yeah, sure. Share this with them. Share this with them. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And as always, submit your questions to Dennis@DennisFenrich.com. All right, guys, that is it for today. Hopefully you're still enjoying these. They are fun for me, and I look forward to doing another one. We're about to hit 52, by the way, which was the goal. Okay, so it's going to be interesting. I don't know what it's going to be on. Apparently, it's going to be on recovery strategies. I might pull an audible. We'll see. All right, guys, have a great week. Talk with you soon. Bye.